The member for Mount Waverley.
Thank you, Acting Speaker, and I rise gladly to speak on the Low Emission Vehicle Distance-Based Charge Bill of 2021. And I'd just like to start by referring to something my colleague and the member for Burwood was pointing out about, he made a fantastic argument about the Commonwealth versus state revenue collection. So, as we know, we have basically a usage charge via the petrol levy, or tax, or whatever you want to call it, that comes from the Commonwealth at the moment. And we get, as the members rightly said, we get 30 cents in the dollar back. So, as he pointed out, we're paying, by our fuel levy, we're paying for roads in other states. Good on them, well done. We get less GST, we're a bigger economy, we're a one nation. I'm okay with that, you know. We support those states that maybe earn less, we get more from WA from mining. That's fine. But one thing I think that we're doing with this charge is that we are bringing more of a user pays decision for our road use going forward. Now, when it comes to EVs, I don't drive one yet, but I'm pretty sure that when my current lease expires next year, I will have the option of getting at least a hybrid, hopefully an EV. Now, well, it's on the list. I'm looking forward to it. Now listen, well, you know, the member is making a contribution that it's got to be on the list. Well, I'm reliably informed by the people down at Waverley Toyota in my patch of Mount Waverley that the hybrid Kluger will be available and that the Kluger will be a hybrid. So I'm looking forward to that. And big shout out to the guys down at Waverley Toyota. You know, my current Kluger's great. It'll be even better when it's a hybrid. Right. So we are talking today about this charge. Now, again, the member for Burwood talked also about the opposition's plans to somehow change the budget and find revenue out of nothing and the secret plan. I don't think I've heard a better secret plan since Josh Lyman on the West Wing decided that he had a secret plan about inflation, and now the opposition, the Shadow Treasurer, has a secret plan about cutting services or something. I don't know. We'll find out more about that, I guess, when the time comes. But this charge is about equity. It is about the fact of users on the road, like all of us, paying our way as we use the road. And I'm very surprised that the opposition is against this basic idea of the more you use something, the more you pay. Because I would have thought that's capitalism in a sense. I would have thought that if we buy a pack of chips, we pay for a pack of chips. If we buy a bottle of Coke, or if I pay for my energy bill, it's because I've used more energy. Now, I'm all for, obviously, with this government, supporting those vulnerable, supporting those who need help. That's what the beauty of having general revenue and collective revenue lets us help those who need a bit more of a hand. But at the same time, I generally don't have a problem with the fact that if I'm driving more on the roads, that I pay my way. And we do that right now with the fuel levy. So I think when you look at manufacturers and technology companies alike, and they're rapidly moving our automotive industry towards an electric future, the horse has bolted. I mean, the UK have already said that by 2030 they're not going to sell any petrol cars. Our car manufacturers worldwide have basically stopped R&D on combustion engines. This, in my opinion, is a done deal. Now, members on the side talked about disincentive. And I spoke to a gentleman from my electorate only yesterday when I was door knocking, Kev. And Kevin had the same question. He said he's concerned about the disincentive. And I get that, right? Because any increase in charge, it's a logical argument to come back. But that's why we have put in $100 million worth of incentives for the much smaller amount of revenue that we're receiving. This is a structural change. This is a change that Victorians in general, yes, will pay for, but will also get the benefit of. At the moment we pay and we don't get the benefit of, not fully. So we must decide as a country also what role we want to play with electric vehicles on our roads. And it's not just up to state governments, of which there are a number who are in the transition to the very thing that we're talking about today, and also New Zealand was mentioned doing the same thing. We also need our federal government to work on incentives, just like we are with our rebates. Maybe they could match our rebates. That'd be a good thing. Now, we're committed to a long-term target of net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050, as we talked about on the weekend. And it's a fantastic announcement that was from the Minister for Energy. And reaching this target requires a transition of our vehicle fleets to zero-emission vehicles. So we're already committed. We're committed to incentivising this transition. And when, I think it was the member for Prahran who stood up and talked about wanting us to transition, but then seemed to have a problem that we were starting to change over to EVs. So I would have thought that's exactly what transition is. So we might need to check the dictionary on that one. So the 100 million package that I mentioned also includes 46 million subsidy program to encourage motorists and businesses to make their next vehicle zero emissions with low and medium price vehicles to be a target of the program. 20,000 subsidies are more than triple the size of the current zero emission vehicle fleet in Victoria. So with 6,000, well, thereabouts sold at the moment. Now, these subsidies will increase the supply and range of vehicles available. It makes sense. At the moment, one of the problems with the zero emissions cars is that they are quite pricey, at least a lot of them are. But as more people change over, as more people are looking at getting their subsidies of, in the vicinity of $3,000, I think, and the money that you save by moving to a zero-emission vehicle on top of that, you're not buying, I mean, we're talking about the levy today, the fuel levy, but the fuel levy makes a small part of the amount of when you put petrol at the pump into your car. When you're paying $1.50, there's a lot of petrol in that price. There's a lot of markup for the petrol station. Whereas if you're lucky enough to have solar panels at home, and I haven't got them yet, but I'm hoping to do that soon, you can charge your zero-emission vehicle at home. So you're getting renewable energy, and as we move even closer and closer to the targets that we're going to have by 2030, we'll have renewable energy charging the cars on the roads from much lower output from each person with a car. So the subsidy program, as I said, will provide for 20,000 eligible vehicles. And the first stage being 4,000 allotments of 3,000. Now, you can't tell me that that isn't an incentive. I mean, we do this in other areas. We do this in the housing market. And we say first home buyers. And we know that has an incentive quality. We know that that affects the housing market. We know that that gets new homeowners just a little bit easier to get in. And that's what we're doing. We're making it a little bit easier. And yes, there's some structural changes. And yes, there's a charge. But responsible government is about looking for the future as well. And it's about looking at how we pay for our roads, our hospitals, our infrastructure. And the money that we bring in at the moment, as we've said, tenfold is going out to encourage zero-emission vehicles. Now, this is a responsible bill. This is a good bill, and I commend it to the House.